We are into month September of a year of soups. We have been doing this for a good few months now. We have got lots of soup recipes on as videos. If you've not seen any of them, I will link the playlist for you in the description box below. If you've been here for all the other soup recipes, I hope you've enjoyed them. We've got 4 more coming up. I hope you enjoy these. Using a bit of produce still from the garden, plus things that we've got from Too Good To Go boxes, and basically just things that we've got in the house. Not been out and bought anything special for any of these soups. I hope you enjoy them. Please hit me up with a like, and please subscribe if you haven't. Come and join us. We've still got many months to go. I really fancied cauliflower cheese, and we've got plenty of cauliflower in, but I've not really got much cheese, so... Plus I want something warm but a bit lighter, so I'm going to go for a sort of cauliflower cheese soup. So I've got some cauliflower, I've got some bouillon powder in there. I'm going to add some hot water, and not too much because I don't want it too runny. I'm going to turn the heat on there just below maximum, and to make sure, because obviously this is frozen cauliflower, not broccoli. This is frozen, so I'm just going to make sure the bits with the bouillon get stuck in. But to make sure it cooks through properly, I'm just going to put my pretend lid on. And then to make it cheesy, I'm just going to use my nutritional yeast, and that'll hopefully add the cheesy flavour that I'm looking for. The cauliflower's cooking away. It's not quite tender yet. One thing I did forget to put in was a clove of garlic, and I'm just going to put that in straight into the boiling liquid because that'll cook it out a bit before we need to blend it. So I'm going to give it 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to blend. Right, blending time. Got the hand blender. Turn the heat off. I'm just going to make it nice and smooth. Right, let's have a taste. Now obviously this is quite a dark looking cauliflower soup because of my bouillon powder. Oh, that's nice. It's nice as it is actually. I think, so I'm going to add my nutritional yeast. Put a good sprinkle of that in. But I think I'm going to add as well some milk. Okay, a little splash of milk as well. I think we'll just make it just that little bit nicer, enriching it a little bit. So stir that through. Make sure that gets warmed up, which it will quite quickly, because this is still quite warm. I can always put the heat back on as well. Right, let's have a taste and see if this is cheesy enough. Cauliflower cheese soup. Well, that's my lunch sorted out. Now, if you've not got any nutritional yeast, you can just put normal grated cheese in there and that would be absolutely fine. Obviously, it'll make it a little bit different texture slightly, but it'll still be really good. So I'm going to go and enjoy that. I got this leek out of a Too Good To Go box, so that needs using. Now, you could go for leek and potato soup, which is perfectly nice and really good, but we've still got, this was about that much longer. So I've got this, I've got that. We're going for a basic, simple soup of leek and courgette. And you could add potatoes to it, you could add carrots to it, you could add all sorts of other stuff to it. But I want something quite light and simple. So I'm going to just do a basic soup. First thing I'm going to do though is this leek. Now if leeks get really mucky. Now the rest of this is fine in terms of, this top bit's a bit ugh. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down the middle, not through the root, because this is going to need a really good clean. And because it's so big, I'm actually going to turn it on its side and go through again. There we go. Now you can see down there that you're getting muckiness right quite, you know, you're getting it a good third of the way down. So I'm going to take this over to the sink and give it a bit of a wash. Now the reason I open it up is so that you can get right in to all those bits of the leek and give it a good wash. Otherwise you're just gonna, you find leeks grow quite well in sandy soil, so it does have a tendency to get right in between everywhere. Now some of these top bits I will be chopping off, but I'm going to try and get as much as I can out because you don't want a gritty soup. And plus this helps to get down there, but also you can shake it all out. There we go. Should, in theory, not be too bad now. Right, back over here. I'm going to start chopping. There we go. So like I say, those top bits of some of those outer leaves, I am just going to chop off the mucky bits. Put those to the side. Now normally my discards of things would go in my stock pot, but I don't particularly want those going in the stock pot because they'll probably taste quite bitter. So those can be composted today. Now there is every possibility you might miss a little bit of grit because it is hard to do when it's such a big leek as well. There we go. I think I've got most of it. I'm going to take the very top off those bits. And now the good thing about having it in quarters but not completely apart is I can chop it all together. Now I'm going to go for quite fine shreds. There we go. Because you could do this soup blended if you chose to, but if you're doing it quite fine and each piece, you know, no piece is going to be bigger than that, it's quite nice to not blend this kind of soup and just have it as quite a, not too chunky but a bit chunkier soup, particularly if you do like leeks. I'm going to finish chopping this, minding my fingers. This is not very good chopping skills. You should be doing it like this and going all nice and things, but sometimes when something's bursting apart at the seams, then you kind of want to just hold it the best you can, as long as you are keeping your fingers out of the way. Now the zucchini, or courgette, I keep calling it zucchini because I keep watching American cooking programs and Australian ones as well. I'm big into MasterChef Australia at the moment, which I've watched every season. So I do end up sometimes calling it zucchini. So this, again, I'm just going to take the knobbly end off that we don't need and cut this down into smaller pieces. We could go quarters, but I think I'm going to go thirds on this side because it's massive. I've got some more in the garden that are just as big. I just keep trying to find more and more recipes to do with these. So again, all I'm going to do now is just thin shards. See, this is a bit easier to cut. I can show off my cutting skills a little bit more with this one. I'm going to get the pan on with some vegetable oil in there, just a neutral oil. I'm not a big fan of cooking with olive oil unless it is a particular Mediterranean recipe that requires it. I'd just rather use a neutral oil because I find olive oil flavour can take over a little bit. Right, there we go. So, pan on. And we're just going to start getting these sweating down and then add some stock to it. Now I would go for my normal bouillon powder, which is my fabulous one, this one that I get from Unicorn, but it's quite intensive flavoured, and I think it would overpower the delicate flavour of the leek and the courgette. So I'm just going for a standard stock cube instead. So pan off, get this heated up, bit of spray oil, there we go. And then once this gets heated, I'm going to just plop everything in the pan. Pan's got nice and warm. I have actually just found a garlic clove while I was getting my stock out the cupboard, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw a little bit of garlic in there as well, only a small clove, just to kind of add a little bit to it. But like I say, everything's basically just going in the pan. I'll put the garlic in a little bit. I don't want it to go in too soon, because these have got a lot of cooking to do beforehand, so I don't want it to be in too long so it burns. So I'll pop that in a few minutes. I'm just going to cook these down till the leek has wilted a little bit. I'm not worried about getting colour on anything, because that'll take away from the lightness that we're going for. So it's just a case of getting things going a little bit. So I'll give that a few minutes. I'll put the kettle on, ready for the stock cube. So I've just got a container with some water. I'm popping it in there, just crumbling it up a little bit. If I do find stock cubes open, sometimes be a little bit greasy. There we go, just give that a mix. This is about 300 to 400 mils of water. But all I need is just enough to cover. You see how much it's gone down by? It was up here. So let's cover that. There we go. I'm going to turn that down to a simmer, pop the lid on, give it about 10 minutes, and then do some tasting. Right, this is done and dusted. If you want to blend it, blend it. I'm not going to, because I want to have it quite chunky on this one. I think it'll just be a little bit nice. As you can see, it's quite a light looking soup. If you use see, I'm still saying zucchini. If you use green courgette, obviously it'll create a much darker soup. So I'm just going to turn that off, because it's going to be nuclear powered, because this holds the heat so well. So I'm just going to get a little bit of everything. See if we need any salt. I don't need salt. I think because there's salt in the stock cube, we don't need it at all. That's delish. Really nice. Right, my lunch sorted. I've got this rainbow chard growing out here like it's perpetual spinach or perpetual lettuce. Cut and come again. I just keep coming back and grabbing panfuls of it, but it keeps coming and coming and coming. So I'm just trying to use it up. So the recipe we're going to make with this is called a caldo verde. It's a Portuguese soup that includes chard or collard greens and things like that. So I have picked some of these, but I've got to be careful when picking some, because I did spot... Now where's it? I see it's probably disappeared now. There were some caterpillars hiding in here, so I'm trying to be very, very careful to not disturb them and not pick the leaves that the caterpillars are on, because we like caterpillars. They're very cute. They've disappeared though now. Never mind. Probably fallen down to the bottom, but you can definitely see where they've been chomping on it. But I don't mind. There's plenty for us to go around. We can share. The ingredients for this then are the rainbow chard leaves, or you could use collard greens or just another kind of chard, Swiss chard, an onion, some potato, carrot, garlic, some bay leaves, and a little bit of salt. So I'm just going to start by chopping these up. These are just going to go chunky. That's going to go diced. That is going to go into a dice, and we're just going to shred up the greens. I've got all the ingredients here nicely chopped. So as I said, I diced my carrot, I diced my onion, just chopped up into small pieces the potato, and I just sliced up the onion, not the onion, the garlic. Those are 3 very fat cloves of garlic, and those are going to go in at the beginning. I'm going to chop this up in a little bit because that's going to go in at the end. So heat on, oil in. Need to fill up my oil container. I normally have oil in this as well, which is quite easy because it then directs it. There we go. Drips a little bit, which is why I keep it in a little ramekin as well, just to stop making a mess on the side. That's that sorted. A little bit more. There we go. I'm going to start with the onions and the carrots initially to get those going. There we go. Not going to put that garlic in too early. There we are. And like I was saying, I'm not too worried about the garlic being in big chunks because we're going to blend this soup. There we go. Right, we're just going to leave that for a few minutes to do its little thing, and I'm going to put the kettle on. We're going to use my bouillon powder this time because we want a bit more of an intensive flavour. Onions and carrots have been going for about 4 minutes. I'm just going to throw this garlic in just for a little minute, just to take the harshness off it. There we go. Give that a little bit of mix, get some heat to that. I've boiled the kettle. I must remember to put my bay leaves in because I'm swine for getting those, and remember to take them out. That's the last thing you want, is a piece of bay leaf stuck in your teeth. There we go. Alright, I'm going to add my bouillon powder. So if you've not got bouillon powder, just go for a couple of stock cubes, I'd say, just to give it a bit more of an intense flavour. So I'm going to get a good, well, this is not a tablespoon really, it's a dessert spoon of that. Give that a mix around. Pop in our potatoes now, just so I can see what volume of water I need, because you want enough water to be able to cover what you've got. Grab the kettle. So just making sure I push everything down. So just enough to cover everything, because we're going to pop the lid on. Pop those bay leaves in. Now these are fresh bay leaves from my garden, but you can use dried, it's fine. Yeah, pop the lid on. Get it to a boil, take it down to a simmer, and cook it for long enough that your carrots and potatoes are tender so that they can be blitzed. In the meantime, I'm going to show you, I'm going to chop this chard. So the stems of this are actually quite tender up near the leaves. If you're using the further down stems, I'd just cut those into very small pieces, or sometimes I just chop them off and put them into my stock pot. So these have been washed. All I'm going to do is cut down the middle, roughly, of each one, just so that I've not got too big a chunks. There we go, not all the way, just so I've got a bit to grab hold of. There we go. And then this is going to make sure that each piece is going to be no bigger than that. And then all I'm going to do is just grab it all together, start at the end, squish it up, and just make it into ribbons. So keep tucking it in with your little finger and your thumb. You can see that, yes, it's good, it's still in shot. So little finger and thumb are tucking in the sides while you are chopping, keeping your fingers out of the way. And then when you get near the end, just tuck all that last pieces in. Then watch your fingers. There we go. So now we've got ribbons of rainbow chard. that are not too big, and you're not going to be putting one in your mouth and have it dangling down your chin while you're trying to eat it. Alright, I've just checked everything is soft, so the potatoes I can squash on the side. I got a bit of carrot and just, again, give that a bit of a squish, and that's fine. So that was about 10 minutes at the most. It might be a bit longer if you've not got a cast iron. It just, like I've said before, it retains the heat so well. I'm just going to get out the bay leaves carefully, and we're going to blitz this until it is nice and smooth before we add in anything else. Righty-ho, we are pretty much smooth. I am just going to do a little bit of a taste to see where we are up to. See if we need any more seasonings. I'm going to say a little bit of salt. Oh, that carrot's made it quite sweet. That's nice, that. Right. Let's give that another mix-a-room. I'm thinking I might water this down just a little bit because it's quite thick. Let's have another taste. Yeah, definitely needed a pinch of salt. That's probably about another 50 mils of water just to thin it down ever so slightly. That's a little bit better. Now I'm just going to pop our chard in there and give that a mix through. This is not going to take long at all because this will, they're very delicate leaves, these, they're not hard leaves. If you've got harder leaves, then it might take a little bit longer, but this is just going to take a minute or two to wilt down. In fact, just the residual heat from this pan will do that for me. There we go. I'll give that a minute to do its thing, and then we'll have another taste. Here we go then, final tasting. The greens have wilted down. Let's get a bit of greens on my spoon with a bit of the soup. There we go. Oh, that's really tasty. So that's caldo verde, excuse the accent, Portuguese soup with greens. That's lovely. I can imagine eating this one a bit more further into the winter. It's quite a winter warming soup, but that's enjoyable, that. Great. Well, we've got one more soup to go this month, so we'll have to see what we're going to make next. So I had a tin of chickpeas that I had opened because I wanted to use the aquafaba to make some mayonnaise. So then I'm thinking, well, I need a chickpea recipe because I've got to use up the chickpeas. So I knew I wanted to make a soup, so I was looking up chickpea soup recipes and I found a creamy Tuscan soup recipe, which also used up the carrots that we had left in the fridge and the other leek that we had left in the fridge. So that's pretty good. The other ingredients are a bit of garlic, so I've gone for jarred garlic this time just to save a bit of effort. It's meant to have celery in it, but I've not got celery, so I'm going to put a bit of celery salt in it. Rosemary, of which I have now got loads, because if you saw on my Too Good To Go box, I had so much rosemary. So I popped that in my Instant Pot and dehydrated it, and I've just put it, and I put it through my smoothie maker to just grind it all up. So that has got me loads of rosemary, and there's a bit of nutmeg in there as well, and a bay leaf. So I've already chopped up my leek. You saw me do in one of the other recipes how I prepare my leeks. I've just chopped up the carrot. I've got my oil in my pan, my trusty cast iron pan. That was heating up, but then I had a phone call, so I turned it off. So we're going to start off with our leeks and our carrots. Pop those in there. Now this is the time, if you had celery, I'd probably use maybe 2 sticks of celery, finely shredded. And if you, like I say, if you're using that, pop it in there. I'm going to put my garlic in now because this is quite a wet, I think I'm, do you know, I'm going to use all this garlic off. So I'm just going to pour a bit of my boiling water that I've got for my stock in a bit, and we're just going to give that a mix. So that'll be about 3 cloves of garlic, so we're not wasting any of that. We're just going to bring that to a bit of a, cook that through, similar to how we cooked the carrots and celery before. Not carrots and celery, carrots and leek. Just till it's slightly softened. Perhaps I might put a little splash of water in there just to get it going a bit more. There we go. I'm going to start adding some celery salt. So I'm just using about a teaspoon of celery salt. So that's in lieu of proper salt as well. A bit of rosemary. There we go. That's about a level teaspoon of rosemary. Nutmeg, I don't have powdered nutmeg, I just have my nutmeg and my fine little tiny grater. So I will start putting that in. So this is going to be about 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. By the time I am finished with this little tiny grater, the good thing about nutmeg is it lasts for ages if you buy it as the seeds. So these can go back, my little tiny grater goes back in the pot. Is that another little mix? I'm going to pop my chickpeas in now. There we go. Give that another mix. Stock cube, if you have got them, I'd go for 2 stock cubes, but I am going for my bouillon. I'm not going for too much of this time, possibly just a teaspoon, because I don't want it to overtake the flavours that we've got from the rosemary. There we go. Now all you want to do is just cook this out. So again, until the carrot basically is tender enough for you to be able to blend it. So top that up with water. There we go. I'm going to bring that to a boil, put the lid on, and then simmer it. And we're probably going to simmer that for about 15 minutes. I forgot to say, put in the bay leaf. I forgot to put the bay leaf in, but I did remember before we finished cooking. So the bay leaf has been in probably 3/4 of the amount of time that it took for the carrots to get nice and soft. So I'm going to take that bay leaf out. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid because that has cooked off a little bit. So let's grab some water. So I've just got a little bit of water there, probably another 100 mils gone in. And our trusty stick blender to finish this off. So we're not going to be able to get this completely and utterly smooth with a stick blender. You're going to need to either put it in a smoothie maker or in a stand blender, but obviously be super careful if you are doing it while it is still hot. So let's have a little taste. salt. Definitely salt, and I think a little bit of pepper as well, actually. Just a smidgen of pepper. I think will just make that even better. Give that a good mix. Let's have that second taste. Meant to blow on it, not cough on it. Excuse me. That's really good. I think that one is going to go well with some very hearty bread. I feel like you need a crusty baguette to kind of dip in and scoop some of that soup up. Really good. That's our tea for tonight. We don't have crusty bread. I do have a pretzel. You know, one of those big soft pretzels in the freezer. I might dig that out. That'd work. 4 super soups. Really enjoyed them. I've got to say, I especially enjoyed the speed and the ease of making my own cauliflower cheese soup. Nutritional yeast keeps the calorie content down if you are interested in that, but also amps up the vitamin content for me, being vegetarian, because it gives me extra B12 in there, which is something that people tend to lack if you are vegetarian or vegan. So it's a good source of that. So nutritional yeast, yay. All the other recipes did really, really well. I really enjoyed them. The courgette one that we made from the courgette in the garden, lovely and light and really, really tasty. The caldo verde, yes, caldo verde, Portuguese soup was lovely and hearty. Again, being able to utilise much more of those greens from the garden. They just keep growing and growing and growing. Oh my days. I'm gonna have to cut them back eventually. We're gonna run out of ideas of things to do with them. And finally, our Tuscan chickpea soup. Yes, the pretzel went really, really well with that. We really enjoyed it. Like I say, you needed not a delicate bread, you wanted something, a thick bread. I can imagine if you used tiger bread with it, which is notorious for its lovely light crumb, you dip it in and you pick it up and half your bread would still be left in the bowl. So a nice substantial bread went really, really well with that. I hope you enjoyed these soups that we have done this month of September. Moving into October, we shall see what we've still got left in the garden. I imagine there's going to be more courgette. I'm growing courgettes nearly as big as my arm. They're getting that big. So I'm going to try and harvest some of those. I might just have to harvest and slice them and chuck them in the freezer for now. But I've got to make some freezer space. So that's what I'm looking to do with my videos on what we have for tea. Use up what's in the freezer. So look out for some more what I have for tea videos to use up some of the things in there so I can make space to fill it again with stuff from the garden. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said before, please do the liking and the subscribing if you haven't. And come and join us on our frugal journey, just using up the foods that we've got. And we do other videos as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.